Hi, it's Wayne Hall back again with an indie comic you can buy in your local comic shop. This week, I wish I had thought of this sooner. Unfortunately, Halloween came and went before I got to talk about it. There's a book called Touching Evil that is a shaking book. It makes me shake when I read this book. It's just so amazingly good story. Uh, the books that I have are collected editions. They are available in individual issues from Source Point Press. This one has the first 7 issues in it. That was an indie book that was self published, but it's now available through Source Point Press. This is the second volume, and you can see Source Point Press's logo on there. That's them. This one, they're putting them out on individual issues, and issue 9 I know just came out. This one has up to number 11. And I thought what I would do to get things started is to read the description of this book. It says, Touching Evil follows Ada Mansfield, an ordinary woman with an extraordinary curse. She can kill anyone she touches if they're evil. She can touch people and they're good and they don't die, but if they're evil, they die. And there's a little more involved. I'm going to spoil a little bit. When they die, they end up entering her subconscious. And what happens is that when she ends up talking with them, she's able to interact with them, even though they're dead, and they're now a part of her. She gets to deal with them and find out stuff and gain some knowledge from what they're doing. It's there's a really interesting thing. Gosh, I hate to spoil this, but it's something you got to read. The thing that happens is somebody, when they discover her curse, they actually ask her. They manage to get, let's just say, a part of her that they can use for their own good. They separate a part of her, and that person makes sure they don't touch that part, but they're able to use that to kill other people. And what happens is to the woman is when these people die by touching that part of her, they still go into her subconscious. That scares the heck out of me. I'm sorry. That is just an amazingly scary thing. The way that the book starts out, there's another guy, an older gentleman who's dying, who has the curse, and it gets transferred to her. She's an attorney. Interestingly enough, she doesn't die when she gets touched. Kind of thought that was going to happen there for a minute when I read it, but it's such an interesting thing. It's described as cinematic. It's Breaking Bad meets The Twilight Zone. Never before in comic book form have the complex relationships and ramifications of the concept of good and evil been so masterfully explored as they are in the pages of Touching Evil. As I said, SourcePoint Press has been putting out the individual issues. They are available in local shops. And like I said, number 9 just came out, which is in this book. I don't think they've put the collected edition of that out yet, although they were involved when this came out. And of course, I think somewhere, if you can find it, some stores may have this. But I would recommend getting right now the individual issues. She has a son, and the son gets involved in all this. What happens is she ends up trying to escape all this, and she takes her son and they run away. And it doesn't really help that much. And of course, she's terrified that she's going to touch somebody, so she's always wearing gloves. And she won't make contact with anybody as a result of that. The really interesting part is what happens when she starts to have these dialogues with the people who have died and have been transported into her subconscious. She has to deal with the fact that they're dead, and she has to talk with them, and that brings a whole lot of guilt up when she does stuff. And the poor, I feel so sorry for her. It's just such an amazingly gripping story. I just, and I'm not much for horror. I always have to say, I'm not a big horror fan. What is good about this story, and I think it's true about the horror that I like, is that I care about the people involved. I very quickly got to care about dear old Ada Mansfield and her son in particular. Um, for a while, when this whole thing starts to happen, she's surprised by who dies and who doesn't. You know, she thinks some people are really, really good, and then they end up dying. You know, so she puts on gloves. She won't touch anybody as a result of it. She just is afraid of who's going to die. And let's just say this ought to be a horror show. It really ought to be. It's just one of those gripping books. So let's get to the grading, shall we? The writing grade, I have to say, I would give it definitely an A. The writing is such, the development of the characters, the suspense, you know, that's a big deal of horror for me. I always like that. It's just really well done. I think the dialogue is well told, and you just don't know what's going to happen yet, and yet you got to turn the page to see what's going to take place. The art, I would give a B to. It's a little less developed than I would have liked. It's a little too simple for my tastes. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just I would have liked something a little more intricate involved. B's still a good grade. I really liked it. And next is lettering, which I am always really hard on. Some of this, the one thing I get a little concerned about is when certain things are happening, when people are thinking or talking, it's a script. I think this is largely when Ada is thinking. You get a script font, and it's a little hard to read sometimes. So I will give it a B. It doesn't cover up the text badly, which is what I always get nuts on. That drives me crazy. Literary merit. The literary merit of this, again, this is one of those stories that it's not time locked. I mean, some of the technology may be getting a little out of date. Cell phones don't get used a lot and things like that, which we've kind of gotten used to. But I think that the characters are so profound, and the horror and the suspense is such that it's going to really, I think, going to be timeless. So I have to give it an A as far as literary merit. As always with my books, fun factor is not a big thing. There's some dark humor in here, very dark. If you're looking for fun, no. I don't think young children should read this either. I would have to say this is something for, teen and above at least, because I just think that it's, I love the hand. That's such a great thing. This is one of those horror books that is going to require a little maturity to read, if you get my drift. There's different characters involved. The person who, shall we say, takes off with part of her is a nasty no good. This is why he doesn't allow any of this stuff to touch him. But there's no fun factor in this one. There's a little dark stuff once in a while. Not funny. Not at all. Overall grade, I would have to give this an A. As far as things go, A to A minus. It's just a, I was getting the individual comics from and the writer by the name is a guy by the name of Dan Doherty, and I was so gripped into this book that he was saying that he had some collectors who wanted really mint copies of stuff. And I said to him, I said, look, I don't want mint copies. Just send me the book. I got to read what happens. So it tells you how into the book I am, is that I didn't care about the condition. I just wanted to read it. Tell me the story, which is really good stuff. So it's Touching Evil. It's out from Source Point Press. I think the first collected volume is out. If it's not, it will be soon. The first 9 issues are out of the story. I'm not exactly sure how many he's got coming, but let me tell you, you want to read this book. If you like horror and suspense, yeah, this is a book you should have. And again, this is Wayne Halt, and I'll be back soon with another review. So until then, keep reading your comics.